let's talk about real estate agents and investing in real estate. And I remember there were some agents that I worked with at the first brokerage that I worked at, which I was there 13 years, and they ran property management, and they were talking to me about their client portfolios. And I remember the husband that ran the property management, it was a husband-wife team. He said, yeah, I knew this agent back in the day, and at his desk he had files, and those were his rentals. He had 10 rentals. And that gentleman that was telling me the story, he didn't have the rentals, but he was just talking about how he admired that and he thought it was a good idea. Why he didn't do it, of course, is up to him, and who knows. But I just remember early on going, okay, I should invest in real estate. And then the big moment is I had an agent in my office, and I was doing the same thing too, where we were selling our client a deal. We were finding a deal. We were bringing it to our buyer. They would purchase it. They would rehab it. They would sell it and make all the money. I'm thinking of a commercial land too, where literally they just bought it, held onto it for 2 years, and the market just skyrocketed, and they made whatever it was, $200,000. And at the time, that was just the world to me, and it's still a very large amount of money. But I remember thinking, I've got to somehow get in a position to where I can take these deals to where when I find a deal, I can have it. And I think that every real estate agent should do it. Why we don't do it? Let's talk about it. Number one, let's just assume that some real estate agents don't want to do that, right? That could be. It could be also that the risk scares them. Maybe they're risk adverse. They say, you know what, I'm not willing to do a flip or to take on a rental, right? Toilets and termites and tenants and market crashes, and Derek, I don't want nothing to do with that. And that fear can keep you back. It's definitely not easy on the real estate investment side, but it's not impossible. And so I like what I find is there's normally two sides to this. There's the person that thinks that it's just going to be super easy, right? I'm going to get some rentals and I'm just going to go to my mailbox, right? Mailbox money. That's all I'm going to do. It's going to be great. It's not going to be like that. And then the other side is it's impossible. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I don't have money. I don't come from money. I don't know anybody to talk to. Whatever reasons or excuses that you can come up with to not invest in real estate, even though you're a real estate agent. And of course, the truth is somewhere in the middle. It takes hard work. It takes commitment. But it's not impossible. And no, it's not just mailbox money, but it definitely is some sort of a passive income. I think it definitely can be, especially I think as you scale and you go into apartment complexes and larger units like that, it can become more passive, or at least more passive for you as you employ people in management and maintenance and stuff like that to manage it for you. But I think every real estate agent should invest in it. The way that I got started is market crash in '08. In '09, I believe that was the first year that we purchased any sort of an investment property. And we purchased a house. I remember it was on Gemini in Victorville, just north of Bear Valley, over there by Amethyst. It was $60,000. And we purchased it. It was a foreclosure. The owner had lost it. The owner was still living in the property. And I went and knocked on the door. Hi, I'm so sorry, you've lost your home. Obviously, they're aware of it. They've gotten, and I think it was over a year since that owner had made payments. Normally, it's a 6-month period, the eviction process. So they had over a year of no payments of any kind. And I knocked on the door and I told her, I'm sorry, you've lost the home. The bank decided to sell it, and I decided to purchase it. And I'm not interested in having a tenant. I want to sell the property. And she told me that she wasn't leaving. And I said, what do you mean you're not leaving? And she said, I'm not leaving. And I was, 29 years old, like I said, first investment property, and I'm like, okay. And I walked away, obviously called in an attorney to start the eviction, and I definitely was irritated, but I wasn't angry. And talking to other people that got into investing and people that still do it, I notice a lot of people take it very personal. And it definitely irritates me when I have someone in a home that I own, whether it was a foreclosure or not a foreclosure. I'm experiencing that right now. I have somebody in a home that I own that is not paying rent, and they haven't paid rent for 7 months to this point. It's irritating for sure. Do I take it personal? No, I don't. And I think part of that is just I set my standards of people and I go, okay, I just assume that every transaction is going to be very difficult, that every occupant is not going to pay me, that they are going to trash the property, and that it's going to go as bad as it can go. And that first deal, it went like that. It took me 6 months to evict her. And then the court set a date for what's called a sheriff lockout, where the local sheriff shows up, and I'm there as the owner. I have my locksmith with me, and he, basically knocks on the door and says, hey, you got to go. And it doesn't really matter what they say. The sheriff will forcibly remove her physically if he has to and get her out of the house. And then I have my locksmith rekey it, and the sheriff will let them know that, hey, if you enter back onto this property, you're going to be in big trouble. And so that's what I did. And then I rehabbed that property and I sold it. I don't remember exactly how much money I made. Let's just say it was $20,000. And then I moved on to the next one and moved on to the next one and continued to do that. And basically I'm still doing that years later. But that helped me, that first little deal, that $60,000 house, which, yes, that was a ridiculously low price. It was at the bottom of the market. Those deals, as of recording this, the medium home price in our area is around $320,000. It's definitely not $60,000 anymore. But that helped me get enough money to get going. And that's a big question as far as strategy is what should you do? Should you buy it? Should you hold it? Should you rent it out? Should you refinance it and buy another one? And honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. Up to this point, I haven't employed that strategy, the BRRRR strategy or the buy and hold and rent it. My strategy to this point, and has been from the very beginning to this point, has been to build up my capital so that when the market does adjust in a large way, I'll be in a position to really capitalize on that like I wish I would have been able to in 2009, 10, 11, and 12. But as a real estate agent, you definitely should. And I think that even if you buy a rental and let's say it cash flows $200, $300, $400, $500 a month, of course, the more the better. As long as you have your reserves in place to not only pay your personal bills, but also to at least be able to pay 6 months of that mortgage on that rental. I'd like to see you have 12 months at least in the bank sitting there. Because like I said, I'm always going to assume that they're not going to pay me, that I'm not going to be able to evict them, especially in California. They give the tenant way more rights than they give the actual owner of the property. Like I said, I've got a tenant right now. He's in there 7 months now, hasn't paid, and he ain't going to pay. And the eviction process is moving forward at a snail's pace, and who knows how long it's going to take before I actually get him out. But effectively, I'm losing money every month. And when I purchased the deal, I assumed that was going to happen. Of course, I'm hoping it doesn't, but I'm just assuming it's going to. And that's I think where a lot of the fear goes, through people, especially real estate agents, is what if it goes wrong? Well, assume it's going to go wrong and make sure you're in a position where if it does go wrong, you're not going to lose your asset, right? That is the worst case scenario. You don't want to lose it. So that's how I balance my risk, is assuming that every deal is not going to go perfect. In fact, that it's going to go wrong, or even if it's a flip, that things are going to pop up. I allocate, a couple $1,000s in my calculations when I'm looking at buying a flip for miscellaneous. And it's proven to be a wise decision. So, but yeah, you should invest in real estate if you're a real estate agent. You know the market. Number one, you have knowledge. Number two, you can save yourself some commission on buying it and selling it, whether you decide to waive your commission or just lower it. I mean, there's just so many benefits. You have contacts with escrow companies and title companies and contacts with contractors usually that you refer to your clients. I mean, you have your team already built in. The only thing that's missing is your courage and your discipline. Let that soak in. It's not the money that's missing if you're not investing. And you may not have the money, but that's still not the reason why. It's your courage and your discipline. And the reason why I say that is because, like I said, when I got into real estate, $65,000 in credit card debt, which was, it seemed like an insurmountable mountain at the time, especially because the most money I'd ever made in a year was $60,000 working at Stater Brothers Markets. And that was working 58 plus hours a week, the maximum. I would get all the overtime that I could. And so to have that much debt was just insane. So obviously I was able to generate some income without having money. And I did that through my dedication and my discipline. So this is the phases that I would say to be, for me, I don't know if this is right for everybody. For me, this is what I chose to do. I chose to build, number one, my real estate sales business to a certain level that gave me the reserves that I needed, which I talked about earlier, right? And that I had consistency in my income, because early on in my real estate business, man, I'd have a month that was like this, and then I'd have, 2-3 months with no income or little income, and then a good month. Very, very stressful. And yeah, so I got consistent, I got reserves, and then I stepped into it. And I think that is the right thing to do, at least, that's what I think, is to build your real estate sales first, generate income, because my whole philosophy behind wealth is generate income, right? Save income, which is the discipline part of it, to not spend it, and then invest it, which is multiplying it. That's really it. That's really all I focus on, is generating, saving, and multiplying. And it's a very simple formula, and it's worked for me so far. So that's what I think. That's what I think about real estate agents investing in real estate themselves.